program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Du hörst auf dein Gehirn auf Luft. Das Programm beginnt in Kürze. Genießt.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I'm your host, Ollie Vogt Larson, and I like to call my fans Your Brain on Aryans. Now, that is an Aryan race that I think is superior. Rest easy, ladies and gentlemen. Our revolution isn't calling for you to take up arms. It isn't calling for you to drop bombs or set fire to thatched roofs or, take over little farms in France. I think that, in general, it's just going to call for you to listen to me talk and have a giggle at the news with me. Shall we begin? I think we shall. Ivanka Trump's brand uses factories that pay people as little as $1 an hour. That's epic. She's a businesswoman, guys, and like father, like daughter, she knows how to save a buck, and he would be proud. Folks, I don't like this death that I recently saw, and I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I don't like it. This 36-year-old, you shouldn't be dying at 36, but Hayden Panettiere, I believe her last name is, she had an on and off boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, and his brother. They were at the scene of her death, according to the police report that was obtained Tuesday. She was found dead in her South Carolina apartment Sunday, and this is coming, I believe, only a couple of months. Wasn't it back in May that she was on the podcast where she was going into the Hollywood pedophilia rings and whatnot? She was going into the, because she had a decades-long career where she was like this child star and whatnot. I never watched anything that she was in. I remember she was in Bug's Life. That's like the most recognizable. I looked through her, what's it called? Not her discography, her catalog of movies and television. And I saw that she was in Bug's Life, but I haven't seen anything else that she was in. But she went into talking about like this time when she was 18 and this guy had her in an isolated room and exposed himself to her. She had all of these other non-consensual situations and whatnot when she was a young actor. It's a very unfortunate situation. I think that definitely there's a case to be made that these people can, they can have addiction issues, they can have severe mental health crises and whatnot. I do also believe that, that we should take them at their word when they're telling us that there's casting couch behavior happening at Nickelodeon. What show was she on? Was she working with Disney or more so? I'm not entirely familiar with her back catalog or her history, but you can guarantee that if you're working in the dirty industry, there's going to be some dirty business.
A newly released, heavily redacted police report reveals more information about Hayden Panettiere's final moments on Sunday.
Panettiere.
According to police, Panettiere's on-and-off boyfriend Brian Hickerson and his brother Zach were inside the Greenville, South Carolina apartment and called 911.
CPR is in progress.
In the incident report, the officer described the brother to be very emotional, while Brian Hickerson did not become emotional until EMS declared her officially deceased.
See, this is the rub. This is what they're going to do is just in case somebody on a casting couch in Hollywood who, sexually assaulted her when she was a little girl, he saw that she was going on podcasts. Maybe she was flirting with the idea of, saying his name and outing him and whatnot. Maybe having a Harvey Weinstein moment 2.0. For the 10-year anniversary, 2017, and all that. And then he was going I don't like where this is brewing, you know what I mean? The 1990s had that sexual assault kind of revamping and whatnot, where women were, reclaiming their spaces in the workplace and whatnot, and they were trying to defeat sexual harassment in the workplace. Then we didn't really pay attention to it in the 2000s because 9/11 happened. We were more so focused on the enemy at home. We were like, oh yeah, maybe our neighbor is harboring a dynamite and they're going to run over and stick it into our mailbox or something like that because, I don't know, I have an American flag on my front porch and whatever. Then in the 2010s, late 2010s, I'm talking late 2010s because ISIS was still a thing into the early 2010s and whatnot. So there was still that terrorism fear, but it was mostly us getting angry at our government for why are we even in these wars? We're going to countries where it's debatable as to whether or not there wasn't even people on the planes that were from Afghanistan, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say is that, they saw that the tidal wave was coming back in. After 2017, there was a sexual assault and Me Too revolution and whatnot, and then it might be the 10-year anniversary where there's no terrorism to distract right now. The war in Iran is mostly a one-sided issue. You know what I mean? Most people are not happy about the fact that we are going to start losing more lives. We're going to start getting more injuries. More people are going to have to go lose their minds on boats in the Persian Gulf. Nobody likes this. So what is the solution? The solution in his mind is, instead of having a new sexual assault revolution where this Hayden Panettiere wants to be the new, what's the actress from Scream? I forget her. Rowan? She's one of the women that outed Harvey Weinstein. Whatever. It doesn't, she wants to be the new this girl. Well, you know what? Here's $50K under the table. Why don't you go make sure that her brother, no, not her brother, but her on and off boyfriend is nearby. Make sure that his brother, so that there's some evidence that there's some men around her and whatnot, and that especially men that don't have a good relationship with her and whatnot, because then it's going to be extra deniable that this idea of us having this back dealing could have ever happened.
The official cause of death is still unclear, but radio chatter mentioned the word overdose.
There you go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. The easiest way to take somebody out who you do not like, especially if they already have a history of mental health crises, and granted, some people do really take themselves out with an overdose. I don't know her personally. I'm not going to claim that she was my friend, and I'm not going to go, she was in perfect mental health condition. She, just look at her. I'm not going to say any of that. She definitely could have offed herself, but I'm saying the chances, given what she was willing to be honest about as of recent, I don't know. I'm just not seeing it.
At some point, Hickerson showed the officer the bag of medication that Panettiere had been taking. Details of those medications are redacted.
Uh-oh.
Panettiere and Hickerson had a tumultuous relationship. She wrote about it in her memoir, This Is Me, A Reckoning. In 2021, he was sentenced to 45 days in prison for domestic violence.
Whoa.
In an interview with NBC News, Panettiere's estranged mother spoke publicly for the first time since her daughter's death. She called Hayden an amazingly talented person and went on to say of people who grow up in the entertainment industry this: it is a struggle, and it's a very challenging industry. It's not unusual for them to sadly find the wrong path. I think it becomes very difficult to be true to yourself, and I think Hayden sadly lost her way, and I wish it were different.
Yeah.
I wish she had stayed true to herself.
Yeah, let's just remember, grain of salt, because this is the, estranged mother. They even couldn't avoid the idea that it's this woman, she's not the most present mother. She doesn't, let's not pretend that she has a great understanding of her daughter.
Because she had many incredible attributes. Guys, you read this and all I can think of is, thanks, Mom, for nothing.
I mean, Panettiere spent years
Yes.
publicly acknowledging her own failures, her own struggles. She did it with you in that interview.
Yeah.
She cannot respond now.
No.
And for her mother to use these days after Hayden's death to just remind the world how much trauma she caused,
Yeah.
it's unseemly.
And when she was here,
It's
Brad,
pretty
she
epic.
told us that it was a very complicated relationship with her mom, and that it was still a work in progress. And you hear stuff like that, and you realize it was still very much in progress. It makes me so sad that of the opportunity that you have after your daughter's death, that's what you choose to leave us with.
If she had just stopped it, she was amazing and
Yes.
talented.
Yes.
Kelly's
We
so
would all
true.
agree.
What I like about, petty parents and whatnot is they always have to get in the final dig. And she did. She was like, yeah, my daughter, she was really talented. Yeah, she was sexually assaulted when she was, a young girl, or, sexually encroached on and whatnot, which counts as sexual assault. When you make somebody in fear of what may happen with your body and whatnot, that counts still to some extent and whatnot. It depends on what area of the world you live in and whatnot. But generally in America, that's enough to qualify. So, maybe a little thing that she should have considered when she was evaluating her daughter before she was like, yeah, my daughter, she seemed kind of fucked up. I wonder why she decided to throw her whole life away like that. And it's like, well, you didn't seem like the greatest support system. I'm going to be honest with you. What kind of a life did she sound like she was starting off with when you're her mother? Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to judge her mother. I'm not here to say that her estranged mother is in any way responsible for it. I'm just saying that it's like, I like watching parents do that. I enjoy when they cannot let their child have anything, even in death. Even in the horrific incident where somebody dies before their parent does. In the horrific instance where a parent loses immortality because their child is gone now. Even then, they cannot manage to, get rid of the idea that it's like, well, my child's still a fuck up compared to me, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, what do you have to show for anything? At least your kid, they did drugs and they had fun, you know what I mean? They went on a ride. You've stayed sober most of your life and you've done nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know her personal life, but it's just goofy and it's fun, and I've watched many people have horrible relationships with their parents. It's very fun. It's fun. It colors most people to be independent and individualized and very they have very, very interesting takes most of the time because they've been very alienated, and they as a result are very individualistic and tend to have opinions. I'm going to be honest with you that are a bit, they're a little more, they've taken to a whetstone more so than a lot of other people's opinions. You know what I mean? A lot of people where they sat at the dinner table and they were like, I feel this way, and the family just, they all sat and applauded for each other. I feel like that's not good for you. I feel like when you go to the dinner table and you're kind of scared to bring up one of your accomplishments because you feel like your father or mother might get jealous. I like that because it teaches you modesty. It teaches you to be, an introspective person. It teaches you to be very, a forward thinker, but also a peacekeeper. It's a good thing for the human mind. I don't plan to be a family therapist anytime soon. Don't bother to try making appointments. I don't want to join the sick world that Sigmund Freud has set up, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, a third body has been found in the Minneapolis area in just 3 days. Public places all across the city. In just over a 3-day span, the latest discovery occurred Monday afternoon when University of Minnesota police officers located an adult's body near the landmark Stone Arch Bridge along 6th Street and Main Street Southeast. That finding followed the discovery of a body along the shoreline of Bde-Makaska on Sunday morning, as well as a deceased woman found in a wooded area at East River Flats Park on Saturday morning. The medical examiner's office and local investigators have not publicly released the cause of deaths for the individuals, nor have officials indicated whether any of these cases are connected. In public statements, law enforcement leadership cautioned residents against drawing premature conclusions, noting that thorough death investigations, including toxicology reports and medical examinations, are underway to determine whether or not foul play, accidental drowning, or other factors were involved. This has prompted heightened community interest and inquiries from local leaders. Hennepin County officials are emphasizing that while incidents are being handled with urgency, investigators are focused on establishing the facts of each separate case before releasing any further details to the public or correlating them. They don't want you going, maybe there's a serial killer, because it's a little silly to go to that immediately. I would agree, but 3 in 3 days. I mean, that's a 3-3. That's like that's a Freemasons reference, buddy.
At 8 o'clock, University of Minnesota police are working to figure out what happened to an adult whose body was found near the Stone Arch Bridge. A university spokesperson confirming that U of M police responded to a report of a body located in the area of 6th Street and Main Street Southeast. This was about 1 yesterday afternoon. At this point, we don't have any details as to who died or how.
Yikes.
This is now the third body found in Minneapolis in just 3 days.
All
Police are
along
still
water.
trying to figure out what led to a body being found in a wooded area near East River Flats Park. That was Saturday night. Then on Sunday morning, police recovered another body in the water on the east side of Bde-Makaska. You see all of this on the map here. So far, police have not said anything about evidence pointing that these 3 incidents are connected.
Well, this morning, the Dakota County Sheriff's Office is asking for your help as they investigate the death of a man after his body was found in the Mississippi River. 40-year-old Timothy Brian Standish Jr. was found near Inver Grove Heights on Friday, with the sheriff saying the death is considered, quote, very suspicious. Deputies are hoping to learn more about Standish's life just before he died.
So people are just falling in the water and drowning a lot these days, or just, they fall in. What just happens? You know what I mean? How they got in there, I do not know.
And are asking people who may have known him to please contact police.
And this is not just the cities, ladies and gentlemen. This was actually right along the Red River up here. There's an update, a victim ID'd in a Moorhead drowning.
A man found drowned in the Red River in Moorhead, Minnesota has been identified. This happened on Monday afternoon. He was seen going under and later recovered. This from Moorhead Police. The victim has been identified as Luis Ramos, 27-year-old Fargo resident. At this time, detectives have determined there was no suspicious circumstances surrounding the drowning. No trauma was observed on the body, and there is no indication of foul play.
Neil Carlson for iNews.tv. Ladies and gentlemen, if you plan to go swimming anytime soon, don't go swimming with a cut because you're probably going to get flesh-eating bacteria. Don't, go swimming if there's, men lurking just out of your eye line in the forest waiting for you to jump in so that they can go under the water and then stab you, drown you, and drag you under. Because think about it. These people, they have snorkeling systems. They can tie rocks to their feet. They can enter the river from just downstream after they see you, get in for a swim, and then whatever, you're somehow able to avoid the current. But, then they're able to put on their scuba gear, get under the water, and then stab your feet, drag you underneath like Jason Voorhees. It's a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's a dangerous time. The summer is wrapping up. August, the heat is, we're losing daylight. The heat, and we're losing daylight. The dark is coming on us sooner. People are going to get nutty. There's going to be ghost stories that are going to be made this August. I promise you. Horror stories that will be told for millennia are being made this August. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking of which, the midterms. There are another Tuesday of primaries that have happened. Florida to Alaska, voters delivered a mixed bag of ideological shifts, high-profile upsets, clear momentum signals ahead of November's general election. Together, the election results are offering a revealing preview of the nation's strategy. Party unity, you know what I mean? It's so. There's a lot of factions. I feel like we're becoming a more faction-based country. I don't feel like that's going to necessarily mean more parties. If it does, that would be curious, but I'm not sure that we're going to get the multi-party system that the UK has, at least for, another 100 years. Candidate viability, as both major political parties are preparing to fight for control of Congress in Florida. A major headline emerged as the Democratic Senate primary concluded, where State Representative Angie Nixon scored a surprising victory over retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman. Despite Vindman's substantial fundraising lead, Nixon, the last name is very emotionally confusing for me because I don't feel right referring to anybody else by that last name, but Angie Nixon leveraged grassroots progressive support to secure the nomination to face Republican incumbent Ashley Moody in November. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Congressman Byron Donalds dominated his primary for governor, showcasing the ongoing strength of the conservative leadership in the Sunshine State. Farther north in Alaska, voters navigated the state's nonpartisan top four primary format. In the high-stakes U.S. Senate contest, former Representative Mary Peltola, Mary Peltola advanced alongside incumbent Senator Dan Sullivan, setting up a closely watched toss-up race for November. Election watchers point to Alaska's results as evidence of a highly competitive electorate where ranked choice voting will play a pivotal role in deciding the key congressional matchups. Ultimately, though, the results are a mixed bag for either party. It doesn't matter who you were voting for. It's not what anybody fully wanted. It's not Christmas morning.
Turning to some big surprises in the Democratic and Republican primaries Tuesday, in a major upset in Florida, Democratic Socialist Angie Nixon defeated former Trump impeachment witness Alex Vindman in the Democrats'
Well,
Senate.
Alex Vindman also looked like a dork. That's the thing that unfortunately was going for him, is that he had this kind of like bully grown up from a 60s family show kind of vibe.
Primary then. Trump-backed Republican Congressman Corey Mills lost his bid for re-election. CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvato, is here with a closer look. So, Anthony, let's start first in Florida. Some pretty striking results on both sides.
Yeah, let me start on the Democratic side, Vlad, because nationally and in Florida, the Democrats are having a debate about the direction of their party, about democratic socialism, and that label. I can show you nationally, just over half the party thinks of that in a positive way. The trouble going forward is that when you look at views of socialism and capitalism across the wider electorate, socialism is net negative. So they're going to have to reconcile that. Let me show you in context, though, the Florida Senate race. This is a list of battlegrounds, and Vlad, you'll notice Florida is not on it.
Not on there.
Florida is a reliably Republican state, so that's the way that one will likely trend in either case. But I do want to go back to the House for a second. You mentioned Corey Mills.
Yep.
Normally, Trump's endorsement this primary cycle
Carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's been the golden ticket. Too much controversy around that, but at the same time, Republicans still do stand to pick up 3 or 4 in Florida, 3 or 4 House seats, just based on redistricting alone.
Really interesting, too, that there are a lot of people in Florida who fled socialist regimes, and that's going to be a problem, I think, for Angie Nixon. So let's talk about that race in Alaska. It's one of the Democrats' potential pickup opportunities, which is kind of surprising to me. This is the state that Donald Trump won comfortably, as you know. So what makes Mary Peltola such a formidable challenger to the Republican Senator Dan Sullivan?
Right.
One of 2 Dan Sullivans, by the way, running.
Right. There were 2 on the ballot.
On the ballot,
the same name on the ballot. The incumbent is in the runoff. Here's the deal with Alaska. The Democrats have Mary Peltola now in the runoff, which is what takes place in November. She's won statewide office before. That's the reason that they think they have a chance here. The other reason they think they have a chance is that the way Alaska's elections work, it's ranked choice voting. And so even if you don't get over 50%, you might be the choice of the 2nd and 3rd place folks. And they could put you over the top. Stay tuned. Watch Alaska. We'll be talking about it all fall.
I know we will. Anthony, as always, thank you, my friend. And I know we're going to be talking to...
Thank you, Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen, there's also another situation. Moskowitz won over Larkin. This is the Florida primary. The pro-Israel candidate, which is not exactly what we were hoping for, but, whatever.
This is a Fox News alert. The AP is projecting Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz will retain his momentary seat, at least the primary in Florida, defeating Democrat socialist Oliver Larkin.
Mixed bag, but that's typically what the news tends to be. Whatever, ladies and gentlemen, I think we should do this. We should jump into the rapid fire section of today's headlines. A lot of things you need to know about in order to keep your media diet healthy. New album drops are being linked to a spike in traffic deaths, according to a new study. The data showed an increase in deadly crashes when artists such as Taylor Swift, Drake, Bad Bunny, and Kendrick Lamar drop new albums. People are really, they're bumping so hard to this goy slop that they're crashing their Kia Souls. I think it's ridiculous to bump fucking Jelly Roll. I think it's ridiculous to bump a lot of these new, like Luke Bryan, I will kick you out of my car on the freeway. And I'm not this Grinch who just hates all music, but what I do hate is when people hip-hop jive themselves. They just want to vibe or whatever, but they vibe themselves into the side of, a 6-seater with 4 kids in the back and a mother driving.
Here at 4, new album releases are a huge driver for the music industry, but be careful driving while jamming to your favorite artists. A new study shows traffic deaths surge up to 15% on days major albums are released.
15?
Researchers looked at U.S. traffic fatalities on top music streaming days from 2017 to 2022. The data showed a spike in deadly crashes when artists such as Taylor Swift, Drake, Bad Bunny, and Kendrick Lamar drop new albums.
How are you this
The
excited?
author notes tens of millions of people reach for their phones to stream those big releases. The spike was more pronounced for young drivers, sober drivers, and drivers who were alone in the car.
Well, I thankfully don't have to worry about this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a fan very much so of the new music scene. However, there is a band that I would call my Weezer. I'm not a millennial. I'm not a person who I can say, I grew up listening to Weezer or whatever. I grew up with my parents playing Weezer. So, they grew up with Weezer and they showed it to me. Ergo, I cannot claim spiritual ownership over it the way that my parents can. However, this band happened to come out with their first EP extended play, if you want to use the stupid, it's not an album, it's an LP, it's a long play. Shut up, I get it, the music nerd bullshit. Their first EP came out when I was 14 years old on September 22nd, 2017, and I enjoyed it from what I heard. I thought that their most blasé song from their EP, in my opinion, it for some reason became the most popular. If you're unfamiliar with their band, you might at least know they're a song Broken. Lovely the Band is a band that I claim a spiritual ownership over. I enjoy late 2010s poppy music. I admit to it. It's my guilty pleasure, and I'm gonna confess it. This is my strange addiction. Lovely the Band and that style of music is my strange addiction. It's sort of this alternative pop rock. I don't even know how to describe their style, but it is alternative. I think that's generally if you go on Google, that's what they're described as. They have have great music. Their first EP was, in my opinion, very well done, but it's short. It's only like 6 songs. And then there was Finding It Hard to Smile, which was their very first album. This was, like, in my opinion, the best thing they've ever done. It was their Blue album. It was like the one where it's like, I don't think anything they'll ever make will top this, unless they really dial in. You know what I mean? Mitchie Collins, and unfortunately, it is only Mitchie Collins and Jordan Greenwald now, because Sam Price, their drummer, he left to go pursue his own career, to, go be a family man, do all of that fun stuff. And, now it is just these two fellas. Jordan Greenwald is the taller one, and Mitchie Collins, he's the singer and whatnot. He's kind of the, who's the front one in Green Day? The one who wears the eyeliner that everybody's attracted to. Green Day members. I always forget their names. Billy Joe Armstrong. He's their Billy Joe Armstrong. Trey Cool and Mike Dirt. Dirt? That's really his last name? Okay, whatever. Their first album was great. I loved every track on it, essentially. These Are My Friends is overly repetitive, but it's a fun song. Pity Party's great. Make You Feel Pretty's great song. Coachella's great. Filling the Void. Even the interludes that they did on this album were fantastic. And in my opinion, the B-side is even better than the A-side, because that on the B-side, you have Your Whatever, you have Maybe I'm Afraid, you have Emotion, you have Walk From Here, Stupid Mistakes, Make Believe, I Like the Way, and Everything I Could Never Say to You is probably the best finisher they've ever had on one of their albums. Then came the COVID era. So that first album came out August 3rd, 2018. Their next album came out 2 years later, August 28th, 2020. This was their COVID track, you know what I mean? Their COVID album, as I like to refer to it as. Weezer had a similar album where it was, what was it called? Okay Human. All my favorite songs are slow and sad. I'm good. No thank you. You know what I mean? It's okay. It's just not my favorite that I've ever heard from them. But, whereas Weezer got weird, or at least, they got transcendent and very into, like, strings, oddly enough, in their COVID era. In the band's COVID era, they experimented more with synthy sounds. They experimented a lot, oddly enough, with saxophones, which works really well, especially in songs like Waste. Buzz Cut's another great track off of this. The opening song, Conversations with Myself About You, is okay enough. It's just like a bunch of people's voices saying the name of the album, and then him going in and out with his voice, going Conversations with Myself. I'm like, it's fine enough. It's just like, it's nostalgic for me because COVID is a nostalgic era, and this is a very nostalgic album. I admit that might overly exaggerate the end score that I give it, but I'm willing to admit that. But Loneliness for Love is a great track. I Hate Myself is good enough. I really I think it's one of their solid ones. I don't want to Go to Your Party Anymore is not, I'm sorry. I couldn't see the vision for it. It's one of their goofier tracks that I've heard on their albums. Silly's great. Emo's great. When You're Lonely is great, which is another interlude that they did. Love Somebody Else is great. I Should Be Happy is one of these sort of Kanye tracks where they play with, I'm going to do a dissonant voice in like this crunchy audio, and then it's mostly the art is gonna be me talking with me, this kind of like track in the background, and it's mostly just like expressions of how sad I am. It's not my favorite. Drive is it's 10 out of 10, maybe one of the greatest songs they've put out. Drive is amazing. Flowers on My Grave is also up there, but your favorite one, which is their 14th track on this album, is easily, I would say, it is my favorite one. It is my favorite track off of this album. Their third album, Jesus H. Christ, I'm sorry to say it. Whereas I gave the first album, what did I give the first album? I gave it a 9.625 out of 10 because I averaged out the scores that I gave all of the songs. I divided it, so I took all of the scores out of 10 that I gave all of the songs. I divided it by the number of songs on the album in order to get an average, a mean. You know what I mean? That middle number, in order to figure out exactly what the average score for the songs are on this album. And for the first album, I got 9.625 out of 10. On the second album, I got 9.10714 out of 10. It was kind of a toss-up for me. I was like, I in my mind, I was like, I thought these albums were going to be closer together in my mind. It's like, okay, that 0.5 difference, I guess it makes a little bit more sense because the second album, it's lacking in parts that I feel like the first album is just complete in ways that the second album just strives to be, but fails. So whereas those are all above 9 out of 10 albums, the third album is a 6.5 6.5 out of 10. Literally, like, it's just a solid 6.5. I don't have any other numbers past that 5 because, if we're being honest, is the third album, and if we're being honest, is the worst album they have put out. And listen, this is not to say that it doesn't have its good bangers. It has Sail Away, which is, one of the tracks that went really, really mega viral on about 3 years ago now. And that was a big one for them. Make Me Wanna Die, I felt like was a little bit, it's less repetitive, and ergo, I'm not a big fan of repetitive songs. At a certain point, they feel like novelty to me, and it's like Broken in a way where I think they did spiritually mimic Broken in a way where it's like it's the fourth track on the album and whatnot, and it was their single for that album. That was also their most viral of their album. And in my opinion, it's not even the best on that album. I think 2 Drinks Away is like it's comparable in quality to Sail Away, but it's just not, it's not as celebrated, which is perfectly fine. But the opening track of If We're Being Honest opens with this really fucking millennial burger music style. I'm actually going to play it for you. I don't care if I get copyrighted. It's a small band, you know what I mean? I doubt that they're actually going to come for me or anything. If we're being honest, here we go. The opening track is him trying to be all emotional and whatnot. It's the worst opening to an album that I've heard from them. This is embarrassing. Here we go. I literally don't care if I get copyright claimed. He tries to do this opening with a piano, and I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to this album. Maybe there's something here. This sounds pretty, you know what I mean? Because it lures you in at first.
If we're being honest.
Okay.
I thought you would have cared a little more.
Oh my god. Jesus fuck.
And if we're being honest,
this is so cringe.
I think I lost myself trying to love you. And if we're being honest,
oh my god.
I think I'm tired of feeling so down all the time.
None of the openings to the other albums were like this. They didn't include these, like, well, I'm gonna be reflective, and I'm gonna, like, try to do this spoken poetry thing, and I'm just gonna... And by the way, this continues on the album. There is, Always Been You, that was another, I think it's the track right after this. Always Been You is a 4 out of 10. This song's a 3 out of 10. But Always Been You is just this one where halfway through the song, he goes, that's what we're all looking for, right? That special someone to celebrate everything in life with. I'm like, oh my god, you fucking faggot fruit. I'm like, stop right now, please. This is embarrassing. I can't listen to it. It was the worst thing that they've put out. Let's finish this.
I think I'm ready to be
I'm ready to be happy.
But I guess I need to learn how to do that on my own.
Oh, do you? Jesus.
And if we're being honest, I think I'm finally starting to feel good.
You really?
And it feels good to feel good again.
Feels good to feel good. This is so fucking bad.
Honest, I think I'm always gonna wonder why it took me so long to start believing in myself. Start to really ask for help.
This is so cringe.
Start pouring the love into myself that I always save for someone else.
If this is what the love leads to, stop pouring it in.
Well, if we're being honest, this is a good place to start.
This is a good place to start. It's like, okay, this part's cool. Like this, if this, by the way, was what the entirety of the intro was, it was this cool, very dark, synthy rock bit. I thought it would have been cool. And then here it fades out with a little bit of like a... It's cool. It sounds good enough. They just dropped the ball so badly with it. This, I'm gonna be like this narrative teller. I'm gonna make people feel something when they listen to this. And it's absolutely, it's not polarizing. Polarizing is where I'm going to be like, 25% is with you, maybe 75% is against you. This is absolutely, it's alienating. It has no supporters. It has no crowd in favor of it. But oddly enough, there are bots in the comment section saying that this one is like a never skip. This one's an always skip. This album is like an almost always skip. It's like playlist fodder. It's nothing special. And that's what hurts me most about this album, is that I know that they are capable of really transcendent, good millennial music. I know that millennials can make good music. That's what makes me angry at them. I've heard their first 2 albums, which is why a 6.5 out of 10 is almost more insulting than a 3, because it's average. It's so-so. It's nothing special. There are tracks like I'm Sorry, Say No to Drugs is not that great, Superfly, Sad Goodbyes, absolutely, it it makes me sick when I think about it. 2 Drinks Away is maybe one of the only savers on this album. Talk About It's also terrible. Hell of a Week is not a great song. I Can't Love is what they finish it out with. And yeah, I Can't Love this album, ladies and gentlemen. A 6.5 out of 10 is being generous. Then their 4th album came out. This was 2023, where their 3rd one came out. 2024, their 4th album came out. And it's not named anything clever. It is the name of the band. They're going the Weezer angle where they're just being like, well, no, this is the Pink album because it's got lips on it and it's a Pink album and it's just named the band's name or whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. The opening track is better. It's not this like cringy piece where he's trying to be a narrator to you or whatever. The title is lovely. The band LBT, the initials and whatnot. It's a 6 out of 10. It's not great, but it's not even close to touching the origin, like the original ones that they made for the intros of the first 2 albums. It's not even close. What Have I Been Missing is just kind of this anthem-y pop tune that just makes me feel like I'm on Ambien. It makes me feel like I'm falling asleep, like someone's yelling in the background while I'm falling asleep, and I don't like it. Nice to Know You is probably the best single they've had in a while, except for Never Leave the House. Never Leave the House is coming from their latest track of singles, but we'll get into that because this is pre their drummer leaving. Their drummer left in 2025, but all of the previous albums they have released have been with their drummer. They have not released a new album without their drummer yet. So I'm scared to see whether or not this, they can actually pick up the energy, because they managed to pick it up with the 4th album. Day Run Out is a pretty good song. Try For You is pretty good. Dear My Future Self, I actually, I like it a bit more than I probably should, just because I feel like his overly confessive lyrics work in that song. Fake It and Make It Real, I'm like, give or take. They're not my favorite. Take Me to the Moon. A solid enough single, and if you have the chance to ever watch the music video or whatever, I would probably recommend it along with Nice to Know You. That's probably their 2 better music videos that they've ever put out. Not to say that it's not the most visually interesting ones they've put out. They did These Are My Friends and whatnot. I just wouldn't argue that they're their best music videos. Rock Bottom's another great song off of that one. Feel Like Summer's great. When Your Heart Remembers is maybe one of the best closers that they've had on an album ever. And I'm comparing this to the 2 original albums, where I'm like, the 2 original albums have tremendous closers, and this one they managed to get back the energy, they managed to get back the vibe. Their drummer leaves May 9th, 2025. They proceed to release Heart Beats Better Without You, which it came out July 18th of that year. Never Leave the House is the best single that they have released since their drummer has left, because after that, it's like it's what you'd expect from them. It's average. Love That Kills is a pretty great song. I like it. It came out January 16th of this year. I Do is this a duet kind of beautiful guitar song that they did with Bahari. April 3rd, 2026, really good song. I'd listen to it if you have the opportunity to. And their most recent single that they've released is Anywhere But On My Mind. It's a 7 out of 10. It's not anything special from their discography, but it's a good song. And now all we have to do is wait, because they are teasing the idea, they have been since last summer, that they are in album writing mode, and I will be, I'll let you all know when they happen to release their next album, because, I will likely be one of these people that is getting into a car accident, because once Lovely the band releases this new album, it's like, 5th one, this is their make-believe, this is their chance to fuse the Pink album in green, this is their chance to have the really, the intense, personal lyrics along with the poppy Island in the Sun kind of vibes that everybody can get behind and everybody can bop on the radio. But that is up to you, Mitchie Collins and Jordan Greenwald. It is up to you, Sam Price is gone. It is up to you two. You are our Sancho Panza and, Don Quixote. It is up to you. You know what I mean? It's no longer the Three Amigos. You need to think of duologies. You need to think of duos, iconic duos, Mario and Luigi. It is up to you to be our Prometheuses. It is up to you to guide us with your knowledge, your fire. And I hope that you can deliver on this latest album. I expect it. I have high expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, the national debt is expected to hit a record high as soon as this week, crossing the major threshold of $40 trillion. Amna Nunes spoke to congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins about why the milestone is a warning for many economists. It's a warning for many people at home because it's like, what does the debt even mean? Apparently it means that we owe other countries money. Nobody likes that.
The U.S. national debt is expected to hit a record high as soon as this week, crossing a major threshold of $40 trillion. Our congressional correspondent Lisa Desjardins joins us now to explain why that milestone is a warning sign for many economists. Lisa, remind us what this all means and why it all matters.
Right. The U.S. national debt is important to us because it helps drive the engine of our government, but it is also a cornerstone of the world economy. Those sometimes can be good things, but let me explain why this level is now a new red flag. Let's take a look and define terms. We are fast approaching $40 trillion in gross or total national debt. One major problem is that interest alone now costs more than $1.2 trillion a year for U.S. taxpayers. That's according to the Federal Reserve. So we now spend more on interest on it than we do on national defense, and basically more than almost anything else that government does. Rising debt also adds inflationary pressure to the economy. We spoke with Carolyn Bordeaux of the Concord Coalition, and she explained the concern if this red ink line keeps rising.
Eventually we will hit some sort of very serious fiscally induced economic crisis, which means that massive debt we're carrying, we will keep adding to it, and eventually it will cause a very serious economic crisis. And that can take many different forms. Often it takes the form of hyperinflation, high interest rates, really, really serious problems that will be very, very difficult for us to get out of.
And that future is not here yet, so why worry about it so much? Because neither Congress nor the White House is really addressing the core of this problem.
Obviously, all of this has been a long time in the making. Lisa, remind us how we got here in the first place.
Well, part of it have been specific economic crises, but another part has been very distinct crisis of leadership. If you look at the debt for the past 50 years here, you can see where it rocketed up in those two places. One of those was 2009 with the recession, another 2020 with COVID. But you can also see that even as the government flooded the zone to try and rescue the economy there here in recent years, you can see it has risen outside of those economic shocks. And both Republicans and Democrats, we see our two most recent presidents there, have seen the debt rise sharply under their watch. Now, as for Congress, it has repeatedly solved problems. I've sat here and talked about it by just spending more money. And Republicans have continued to cut taxes. All of that sounds great, except we don't have the money to do those things, really, when you look at our debt line. So what's happening right now is a lack of leadership and, honestly, not just financial sobriety, but honesty about the problem.
$40 trillion is such a huge amount. It is almost incomprehensible. How do we begin to get our heads around it?
Right, we thought about this. First, I just want folks to look at the number. Let's look at it. That's 40 with 12 zeros after it. That's what 40 trillion looks like. What does that mean? It's almost impossible. One way you can think of it is if you stacked up $1 bills, we hear this a lot, it would actually go all the way around the sun if it was 40 trillion. Another thing that might not make much sense. So we tried to come up with a more tangible way of expressing this. Let's talk about houses in America. Right now, the average single-family home costs about $400,000. And if you do the simple math here, 100 homes would be $40 million. But then let's zoom out to all of America. That's where you hit $40 trillion. That is more than the worth of every single family home in this country. We have about roughly 90 million single family homes. So if you want to know what $40 trillion is, just look at the houses around you. It is the worth of every single family house in this country.
You mentioned the lack of leadership on this. Is anyone in Congress talking about how to tackle this?
Fuck it, nah.
But by and large, they just talk about their own slice of it, and they're unwilling to compromise over the tough
It's things. The guys in the red ties. It's the guys in the blue ties. It's the, vote for me.
That they need to do to get us here. One example is the Freedom Caucus in the House. They've been pushing for tighter budgets for years, but they actually did not get the kind of spending cuts that they campaigned on.
Damn.
And also, in truth, they're not willing to give on taxes and revenues. They want revenue cuts. There's a big debate over what tax cuts do. Senator Rand Paul is an example of a senator who's someone who votes against spending bills repeatedly over the national debt, but very few members of Congress actually do. And no one is talking about the big picture like Social Security reform, Medicare. What's more, two of the biggest voices here are leaving Congress this session. That's Republican Congressman Dave Schweikert of Arizona and also Democratic Congressman John Larson of Connecticut. They spent a lot of time talking about Social Security. Carolyn Bordeaux points out that one of the issues here is that not just we have a problem now, but if lawmakers don't deal with it soon, they're going to have to take more and more drastic measures. And we're talking about significant spending cuts, but also potential significant tax increases to actually deal with it. And right now, we just don't see anyone talking about it. One more problem, we're at $40 trillion, but we're now just a few years away from $50 trillion in national debt as well.
It's another staggering figure. Lisa Desjardins.
Folks, I mean, it's going to be really an intriguing time when you, as the 65-year-old, you're going to be in maybe 10 to 20 years. When you are going to be living off of the diminished check of $600 a month in order to make sure that, you got somewhere to live, you got something to eat, you know what I mean? Senior poverty, whether or not that kicks up, it's probably gonna kick up further than the vaccine exemption rate because the kindergartners, they're not getting their vaccines anymore, according to the CDC. It's at record highs. Exemptions from the routine vaccines among U.S. kindergartners increased to a record high of 4.2% during the 2025 to 2026 school year, according to new data from the CDC released. Listen. Some of these vaccines that they're mandating, or at least some of the ones that they've requested, are a little out there. But some of them, you know what I mean? I'm in favor of maybe a measles shot. I'm in favor of maybe something like, the chickenpox vaccine. I'm in favor of a couple of them, but I'm not in favor of a COVID vaccine every year. Fuck that. I'm not in favor of a flu vaccine every year. Fuck that. I'm not in favor of the, I'm sorry to say, I'm not, people like they're immediately, you're skeptical of some vaccines? Oh, you must be a vaccine skeptic. I'm not skeptical of every single vaccine. I'm not skeptical of the idea that, some of them definitely do have side effects, but some of them also, they have actual effects on the transmission rates. They unlike the COVID vaccine, of course, that was always bullshit from the start. But I believe in science. I believe in science that's well researched. And a lot of these vaccines, a lot of these people, the research either comes out on an end that makes you suspicious of it, or they're neglectful of said research. That's the unfortunate thing that you run into when you're having these debates around vaccines.
The record number of kindergartners are starting school by skipping routine vaccines. So doctors are now sounding the alarm, saying these vaccines help protect not just kids, but the entire community. New CDC data shows.
That's always what they do, by the way, is they'll make it about the community. They'll say personal freedoms. Listen, we've lived through COVID. We've lived through the bullshit era. We've lived through the sense where it's like, yeah, there are some ideas behind masks reducing transmission rates. The research on it is mixed. Okay, well, still it makes everybody else feel safer when you go to the family get together to wear a mask. All right, then fine, we'll wear a mask for this fucking family get together. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And then we all get the vaccine and whatnot. We do all of that and whatnot. Then we find out that there are people getting heart conditions from it. And then it's like, well, I don't know if I'm, we did it all for that one summer. We did it all for that 1 year where it was like, let's all get our vaccine so that we can go hang out and whatnot. And it's like, well, maybe we all could have been hanging out this entire time, but we were all just petrified because we were unfortunately, I'm saying this honestly, we were all corralled very, very, very well because, especially when we were hearing the stories of these fatties going on ventilators, when we were hearing about the rare instances of people with heart conditions dying at 35 or something like that, everybody would get scared right back into their houses. And it got to the point where we shut down the entire economy over it. Everybody can admit now, with the, hindsight being 2020, that we were ridiculous. The fear around it was overextensive, and the risk rate that we were preached was never as dramatic as it was claimed to be.
Exemptions climbed to 4.2% during the 2025-2026 school year. That is up from 3.6% the year before, and nearly double the 2.2% from just 5 years ago. So Why aren't kids getting vaccinated? Well, the data shows most exemptions are actually non-medical reasons, such as religious exemptions. And it comes
Well, there
from
you
the
go.
country is dealing with a record-breaking year for measles cases in the last 35 years. The CDC says the percentage of kindergartners getting the MMR vaccine, which protects against measles, mumps, and rubella, slipped to 92.4%, and that is below the 95% experts say is needed to maintain that herd immunity. So, guys, while the overall numbers are declining slowly, health officials say that even small dips increase risk of outbreaks as highly contagious diseases like measles continue to spread.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's always the religious communities, and then people are always like, well, should we step on religious freedom? Should we step on whether or not we mandate vaccines? Everybody likes to have fun with that and whatnot. And then we neglect the fact that it's like, it's always up to your choice. It's always up to you. It's always a thing. It's like, what do you wanna stick yourself with this fluid that we have a limited amount of research on, but also like you get to hang out with your family again? All right, fine. I'll take that risk for right now. But now my heart feels weird. Now I don't get sick correctly. Now I have these some mouth sores every time I get sick. Now I have all of these strange conditions and whatnot that allegedly, at least according to some of the research that's out there now, could have been caused via the vaccine. I have, all of these long haul COVID things that happened only after I proceeded to get the vaccine. The first time I got COVID before I had the vaccine, I was perfectly fine, got over it in a couple of days. The vaccine, if anything, my body was less well equipped to fight the disease afterwards. That's at least the anecdotes that I hear from many individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, according to a new study from researchers at the University of Pennsylvania and Northwestern University. For the first time in human history, fertility rates are continuing to fall below replacement levels. Is that really so bad? I understand that, a lot of us, we do want big families. We want, communities. We want, people are I want people to be having kids. I want new generations. I want, the world to be active and alive. However, there's a lot of us, admittedly. There's the idea that it's like, well, maybe we could lose a couple of families. There's a couple of families where it's like, I look at the kids, I look at the parents and whatnot, and I'm like, maybe it would be best if your kids did not have kids. I based on the way that you treat your kids, based on the way that you guys interact, based on the way that you are not able to even keep a lid on it, that when you're out in public, the way that you're not able to keep your family infighting, your horrible, dynamics and whatnot, your hatreds for each other and what, some people, they should be let go. I'm not saying that I'm not one to believe that we need to reduce the human population to like half of what it is. I'm not saying that we have to do any of these sorts of things. I'm saying that there are some people that we can afford to let go. There are some serious financial implications, including higher costs for Social Security and Medicare, and increased pressure on the economy overall. Katie Tur, what do you have to say about it? What do you think it is, Katie?
The world may be running out of people, as in we're not having enough babies.
Running out of people is an over-exaggerative and fear-mongery way to phrase it. You really want... Katie Tur, how many fucking babies do you have, Katie Tur? I'm literally looking this up. Katie Tur, kid count. It's like a kill count, you know what I mean? She has 2 children with her husband, Tony DeCopel. That Tony DeCopel from the what's it called? The Evening News? They have a son named Theodore and a daughter named Eloise. I hate that name. I'm sorry to say it, but Katie Tur, you're not doing much to help. You're at less than replacement rate. You're at only just okay, you and your husband are going to be replaced, but what about your parents, Katie? How many kids did your parents have, Katie? How did they work to preserve the white race, Katie?
Both here at home and globally to replace ourselves. Something
those
that
brown people
never happened before in human history, according to a new study by researchers at the University of Pennsylvania.
Because of the immigrants.
It has not happened during world wars. It has not happened during global...
Because the population wasn't 8 billion, you fucking retard. I'm sorry to say it. Yes, when you have an explosion of population, especially, when was the world population 1 billion? 1804. So in 1804, it reached 1 billion. 1927, 2 billion. 1960, 3 billion. 1975, 4 billion. It took, it starts taking less and less time for more and more people to show up. When you have an explosion of population, it's bound to happen at a certain point where there's going to be some people that maybe don't feel like fucking. There's going to be some people that don't feel like having kids. So there's going to be maybe some lingerings. There's going to be some okay, maybe we're going to have a couple generations die off. Is that so bad when we might just drop from, God forbid, maybe 8 to 6 billion?
It has never happened.
Are you dumb, Katie?
You might be thinking that is a good thing for the environment, and yes, that might be true.
I don't care. I'm sorry to say it. The environment it'll be fine. Mother Nature always finds a way. It's the human population that we're always worried about when it comes to the environment bullshit. Katie, what's your point?
It's still a bad thing for us.
It's still a bad thing for us because, my fucking ugly, stupid kids are not gonna have enough kids in order to support my Social Security checks. Fuck you, Katie Tur.
For one, financially. We have a tax system here.
Get a fucking job and keep working past 65, you deadbeat. I'm sorry to say it. If you give up on working at 65, you're a deadbeat and a loser and a piece of shit. And if you retire, the fuck? If you retire at any point, shut up. You're old and you're a waste. You're not useful to society anymore. You're like, no, I'm the grandmother. I'm the grandfather. I just sit and I give advice now, or I take care of the youngins, or I sit and be rich, and I just I enjoy the things that I worked for. You are going to decay. You're going to have no real purpose. People are going to think of you maybe 4 or 5 times a year when they go to your house for a holiday. You are nothing. You will become nothing if you proceed to throw yourself into the human decay spot that is retirement. Nobody should be retiring. Not in the sense where I'm like Ben Shapiro, where people should be worked till their deaths. I'm saying people should have a purpose. They shouldn't be sitting in their homes, fucking watching television all day. Wheel of Fortune, sitting and smoking weed and drinking alcohol all day, which, by the way, that's what a lot of these elderly folks do. A lot of these boomers and whatnot, they sit and they do nothing. They sit and they collect government money. They haven't had a job since 2000 something. They're fucking deadbeats. I'm sorry to say it. If you do not have a job and you're like, well, I had a heart attack back in the whatever, I had this go on, and it's you can't be sitting on a stool screwing widgets together, excuse you? Get a fucking job greeting people at Walmart, you deadbeat.
In the U.S., where working age people pay for the retirement of folks over the age of 65. We support them by paying into Social Security.
I think they're the deadbeat generation. I'm sorry to say it. The people above 65 right now, the deadbeats.
They support those as they supported those before them.
They didn't support, excuse you. Yeah, they gave you, clothing, they gave you food, and they gave you shelter, and they gave you emotional abuse at the very minimum. And then guess what? Boomers, you're going to get that. You're going to get to go live in your Section 8 housing. You're going to have $200 for alcohol, cigarettes, or whatever throughout the 2 weeks and whatnot. You're just going to have to live very limited lives. I'm sorry to say it. No more 10-foot ceilings. No more vaulted ceilings. No more, lakeside villas. No more tiny home dreams or whatever. You're going to be sitting in Section 8 housing, drinking yourself to death.
The way it's always worked. Because we've always had far more people working than retiring.
Can't always be that way, Katie.
Significantly less so now, which means in the next 10 years, maybe sooner, things get real bad, disastrous even.
What do you mean?
Here is how the Washington Post editorial board has put it. By 2030, 1 in 5 Americans will be a senior, raising Social Security and Medicare costs and pushing them onto a proportionally smaller working population. And there's another problem hiding underneath all of this. The CBO projects that around the same time, deaths will begin to outnumber births.
All right.
So for the first time, the U.S. won't be able to count on an actually growing population to fuel economic growth.
What are you going to do?
And the consequences hit fast. Social Security is projected.
You just shut up if you're not going to be, properly speaking. I can afford to do this. I'm on YouTube.
In 2032, Medicare in 2033, and the only source of population growth left, the only solution that's easy and out there that could fix it quickly, could be immigration.
Of course, it's always that with you. It's always that with you, Katie Tur. You're just trying to, open borders. We need the open borders. We need people to, guess what? Actually, it's AI. You're living in the past. The people who still are like, no, we need immigrants to come pick our strawberries. We need immigrants to come work at our gas stations. No, we fucking don't. Why do you need an immigrant? You need someone named, Juan to hand you the cigarettes that are just behind him at the countertop? No, it's going to be a robot handing you those cigarettes in a few years. Don't act like you care about the immigrants. Don't act like you really... I'm up at night shaking in my bed thinking about the people of Ecuador and their strife, their strife and their troubles. Like, don't bullshit me. The same people that are telling me that you need to be really, really concerned about whatever else is going on outside in the world, where it's like, oh no, but we have to go and help the troubled people of Sudan. Okay, there's human rights violations. You want to go send your son, your daughter? Oh wait, no, you don't have a son or a daughter because you choose to sit up all night. You smoke cigarettes, you drink all night, you smoke weed like a fucking degenerate, and you you listen to like Oasis, like old albums from the 80s and 90s, like, man, this is what, like, I know that we were born in the 9/11 generation, but these people really understood music, dude. I'm living in the post-capitalist mindset. You're still stuck in that fucking slave mentality, dude. All right, cool, you slave. I'm sorry to say that. Slave, by the way, to the nicotine addiction. That's exactly why you keep going out on your porch every 5 minutes. Don't come to me about how I'm a slave to anything when you're a slave to substances. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say that. These counter-revolutionary guys that I've hung out with in Fargo, if they ever hear this, they're going to know exactly that it's like, oh shit, he talked about us. He just didn't say our name. Ladies and gentlemen, so I want to talk about this to close out the show. Trump is saying that the Iran talks are off and the regime is vowing to keep fighting. Tuesday, all diplomatic negotiations were announced to be off with Tehran. They've been called off. They've left the ongoing conflict in a tense deadlock. The announcements are following the expiration of the temporary 60-day memorandum of understanding signed in June, which failed to produce a lasting peace deal amid reoccurring violence. A continuing series of violations and disputes over maritime security ensured that it was going to fall apart pretty quickly. Writing on social media, President Trump confirmed that no further conversations are scheduled with Iranian leadership. He's emphasizing the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports will remain in full effect. And in response, Iranian officials have firmly rejected the administration's position. They vowed to persist in what they described as an economic war of attrition. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Iran's chief negotiator, informed lawmakers that the strategic Strait of Hormuz will not fully reopen until Washington lifts its port blockade in full, releases frozen Iranian assets, and halts military operations in the region. Tehran is maintaining that it will govern traffic through the waterway alongside regional partners, directly challenging Washington's military presence. So, commercial shipping through the passage is still remaining down significantly from pre-war levels following the recent projectile attacks on transit vessels, and also in the Red Sea we're having a couple of troubles. Now is not a good time to have anything that requires gas or oil.
5:32 now is your time. President Trump says there are no talks underway with Iran.
Yeah, the war is fueling debates here at home with more primary election results coming in this morning from other states. Doug Lazader joining us now from Washington with a reaction to some of those results. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. As far as Iran is concerned, this appears to be an abrupt turn for the administration. As far as diplomatic outreach is concerned with the Iranian regime, promising to keep up the fight. Regime supporters in the street in Tehran marking 40 days since the funeral of Iran's supreme leader. One banner reads, "Death to Trump." Regime leaders are holding fast.
We should not consider Iran a rational actor. It's a revolutionary state. And revolutionary states, by definition, are willing to bear costs that far outweigh any benefits they get.
And President Trump on social media proclaiming that the Strait of Hormuz is new U.S. territory and writing, "There are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force and effect. The Hormuz Strait is open and operating." But the reality is that very few ships are getting in or out, and even in the face of the possibility of renewed conflict, Iran is not backing down.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a fun time to be alive. I want to leave you momentarily with One of my favorite little ditties that John Lennon was able to produce before he was taken from us by a gentleman who was rather a big fan of J.D. Salinger. Here we go. That's right. Think about it, guys. A woman is the nigger of the world. Yes. Think about it. Do something about it, guys. Now, there's tons of women that are living out there oppressed. They're the niggers of the world, unfortunately, according to this iconic tune. And I want you all to remember that this episode's theme was social justice. And I want everybody to come away from this a better person. I have been your host, Ollie Vogt Larson. If you'd like to be there for our future episodes, subscribe if you want more, like if you liked it, ring the bell for notifications. But in the meantime, I've been Ollie Vogt Larson with your brain on air. Thank you all so much for listening. I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye.